Welcome to NEK VT Rocks, and my guest today is Phil White, who is leader, creator, madman, person of the year of Kingdom Games. Phil, how did somebody who had a respectable career as a lawyer suddenly become the creator of something like Kingdom Games?
First off, thanks for having me. It's great to be able to talk about these games. I love them, and it was kind of inadvertent. I've always loved the lake. Mm-hmm. I've loved biking and running on dirt roads, but it wasn't until I was involved with IROC that we tried to promote IROC as an indoor and outdoor recreation facility. We needed to do something in the summer, and so we organized Mark Bouchard organized the first Tour de Kingdom, a century ride, and we had maybe 40 riders that first year. Second year we went internet. We had some help from Gloria Bruce at NEK Travel Association, Travel and Tourism. And we had 80 people, and they said, this is really terrific. So that got me motivated to add a running and a bike and a swimming event. Mm-hmm. And the first year we did Kingdom Swim, people said, you'll be lucky if you get 10 people. And 5 o'clock every morning, I'm out there kind of trolling and stalking potential open water swimmers. And I stumbled across some really fine people in the sport who helped me enormously. And the first year we had 100. The second year we had 200. Now we average between 150 and 250 on any given year on Kingdom Swim, and the number of swims have grown from one big day to probably 15 days of swimming. Yeah. So when IROC closed, I had a decision to make, which was to go back to the full-time studious practice of law or do something else with the next phase of my life. So I decided to open Kingdom Games. I bought the rights to all the events, and off we went. And it's scary at times. There are times that it's pretty close in terms of whether we break even on an event. Mm-hmm. But the joy of them, not only from the participants, but also the community. Right. We have probably 125 volunteers who donate at least a day or more. We've got 30 people out in boats that's 15 boats during Kingdom Swim. But we have volunteers for other aspects of the games, and they kind of gravitate, they like certain parts of it. Mm-hmm. Like some folks like the support station up on Bates Hill at the Dandelion Run. Right. So I have Don Houghton and Marie Raboyne, and up there and with Julie, and that's their spot, and they come back year after year. It. That's right. And you're the dog catcher who goes out on the roads before the run to make sure that all the dogs are in, which is just a great thing to do when you're trying to organize a running race.
Yeah. One of the really cool things that I see happening is if somebody has an idea of something that's, quote, missing in the kingdom, and they say, hey, Phil, what something skating, for example, on the lake, your response is, oh, there's an idea, let's do it. No matter how crazy an idea has seemed, you've just done it.
Well, in fact, when my kids were younger, we used to go out and play pond hockey on the ice, and often till 2 or 3 in the morning. And when we lost the puck, we'd use a frozen bagel and just play and play and play. And I told them at the time, you know, my dream is to drive a Zamboni and make skating trails on the lake. And we had, when a group of us got together to see if we could make the Winterfest a little more robust than it had been. It was good, but it wasn't of the old days when we had a real Chamber of Commerce Winterfest, and we were trying to build it. And I said, well, you know, let's see if we can do a skating trail. And that year, I didn't have a truck or a plow, but Dan Galvin came down with his truck and plow, and Danny St. Ange came out with his huge snowblower. That was a year when the ice was 2.5 feet thick.
Right.
And he came out, and so with their help and the help of Newport Recreation, we had a skating trail in our first pond hockey tournament. Then it kind of grew to the speed skating oval. People got interested in that, and so I had a lot of help getting going. When we started the winter swim, we had Newport Parks and Recreation came out and cut the hole. We never would have gotten that hole cut without their help at that first year. After that, we started contracting with Mike Booth, so we didn't have to worry about start to finish. He takes care of everything. The first year, we only had 11 people signed up as of January, and it ended up with 40.
Right.
This year, we have 67 signed up, and they're coming from Ireland and California and Oregon and Georgia and all over the place. New Mexico. So it's exciting.
Do you have fantasies of additional sports that you could be putting into the mix?
Well, initially I started out with over 40 days. And I've gradually culled them. This year I'm trying to focus on the events that have the potential to be bigger, and where I focus more of my attention on them. Like the Dandelion Run, we run about 200, 250 people each year. I'd love to grow that to 500 people.
That's the most incredibly beautiful event.
It
is stunning.
Well, you want to see it?
Sure.
Well, let's see if I can pull this up. So that's Kingdom Games.
When people talk about Dandelion Run, that they're just talking about a few dandelions, but you see miles, literally miles of this gorgeous yellow. It's just the most beautiful event, and you've been so lucky with weather for it.
Well, you know, this summer we had a terrible summer, but the best day of the summer was the day of Kingdom Swim.
Yes.
And it was beautiful. One of the things that I never want to forget is how much support we have from the community. And at times it's more one year over the other, but Community National Bank has been a huge supporter. Jay Peak and Burke Mountain and Eden Ice and Newport Cafe, Pick and Shovel, they've been great. And one of the things I've started to do is really try to partner with other area businesses like Kingdom Brewing, the East Side Restaurant, Newport Cider House. When we get groups of people and businesses that appreciate the value of what we're doing, we benefit everybody.
Right.
So it's been exciting to have.
I mean, clearly your events pull in an enormous number of people that can only benefit the businesses here and benefit us living in Newport. The events that are in Newport, we at least who live here really appreciate.
I think I see the, the value of any given year will probably bring in 1,500 swimmers, runners, bikers, kayakers from all over the place. And that's obviously a benefit to the community. But the other thing is that we get, like with the Dandelion Run, we get a lot of local involvement.
Yes.
Not only as participants, we have 7, 8, 10 schools that participate. And I'd love to get more. I'd love to get some real, every elementary school represented at the Dandelion Run. Let me see if I can. So that's at the start. That picture, the last picture was by Don Whipple. This is by Gordon Alexander, who captured the start. These are some local runners, Ted Chitomber and a few others in
They'll
there.
recognize themselves.
Yes, and then this is
picture.
a kid from Turning Points.
Yeah.
Running. This is a couple that met at the Dandelion Run. They got married on Bates Hill, and they came back to run it together this spring.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and then we get music.
Yes.
Community National Bank support allows us to bring in Reckless Breakfast. They play. Patty Casey from Montpelier plays. We have Kingdom Dixie is now playing at the Kingdom Swim. When the swimmers exit the water, they get the Dixieland group. And then this is shot up in Sutton with the Tour de Kingdom. We're working now mostly out of East Burke on the Tour de Kingdom with Mike's Tiki Bar. Burke Mountain invited us down. There's a lot of mountain biking in East Burke, but not a lot of road cycling. And so our goal, my goal, is to work with Burke Mountain and Mike's Tiki Bar and Kingdom Trails to promote road cycling, because there's some of the best road cycling in the Northeast, right there up through, this is a group at Mike's Tiki Bar for the Moose, and it goes up to Island Pond and around to Norton. And this is, there's Laurie Duravage and Fran Plasted from the Upper Valley. We had teams racing, and we had a lot of fun with that.
That's so gorgeous.
And then the last day of the 3-day weekend is the legendary lake region of the North Country. And we go through Willoughby and Crystal and over to Island Pond and Seymour. This is coming out of the Gap. And this is a ride around the lake, which is a perennial favorite of many. This guy comes from Utica, New York.
Have any of the tourist groups picked this up? Because it would be a wonderful thing for them, given that Vermont is billing itself as the great outdoors.
You know, there have been some efforts to promote the events. For example, NCRC, Newport City Renaissance Corporation, did an ad with BTV, and they had a picture of the skating, which I'll get to, but they billed Newport as the home of Kingdom Games.
Right, that's great.
And nothing I asked for, but boy, it felt good to have that sense of the value to Newport and to have that almost family style recognition of the games, and made sense for Newport to brand itself as a place where fun sports take place. I mean, the Kingdom has gotten its reputation initially as for outdoor recreation with hunting and fishing and then skiing, not only downhill but cross-country skiing. This whole biking, running, and swimming is a kind of new thing that's happening. Rasputitsa is an example of the kind of thing that has just exploded. And I think that's the new wave. So I'm hopeful that there will be a concerted effort to promote the Northeast Kingdom as a place where these, I call them the Valley Games, because they're not on the mountains, are happening. I think we've been a little slow and inconsistent about it, but I think we'll get there.
It's coming. It's coming. We also can't forget that you have a Fiddle Fest attached to the Dandelion, and music festivals are really important up here, and that's one that could stand a little more sunlight on it.
Well, yes. And last year I went looking for sponsors for the Fiddle Fest, and I found none. So we're not going to do it this year.
Oh, too bad.
We're going to try to get fiddlers in, but we're not doing it unless we can find support for it. So I am hopeful. I mean, obviously the Jazz Festival was great when it happened.
Yes.
The Wednesday night concert series is terrific for downtown Newport. But something like a Fiddle Fest can draw people from out of the area and not just have, I mean, locals will enjoy it, but you can have fun with everybody else too.
So if somebody would like to pick that up and do some dancing around it, that would get your support and encouragement.
I would love to have a festival around the Dandelion Run.
Yeah.
I'd like to see a whole Dandelion Festival. There's a place in Dover, Ohio that it's an Amish country. It's a winery, and they have a Dandelion Festival, and they have dandelion cook-offs, they have dandelion wine tasting, they have dandelion products, they have dandelion picking contests, and they draw 10,000 people into this little valley. You know, so there's real potential to do that kind of thing.
The dandelion is a plant that you can eat every single bit of, and it all has both medicinal uses, nutritional uses. They're our first veggie of the year, homegrown, always.
And they start the bees on their season.
That's right.
That's the first flower that the bees hit. And And they blanket our fields.
Yes.
We have, I mean, dandelions are great around Vermont, but I think Morgan Holland and Derby have the best dandelion fields. I've even told them in East Charleston, you know, the dandelion fields over in Morgan Holland and Derby are better than yours because they're on the hillsides. And as you're running through them, you get a sense that you're running through the dandelions.
Dandelion Festival would be a wonderful idea.
Yeah, well, I am looking for things like that, if there's support.
Yes.
You know, at times the chamber has been vibrant and robust, and Newport City Renaissance has been terrific, and so is
functional right now.
So is Newport Rec. Right now, we're kind of in a what's going to be happening, and so I'm hopeful that you know, this will revive, and we'll get more and more events in downtown Newport.
We had a garlic festival this year in Newport for the first time, and that's obviously in the fall, and maybe that's something that could tie into an event too at some point.
You could have a checkers championship, and if you have something that people are passionate about and market it right, go to groups, you can from all over the country.
Sure.
So that's kind of my pitch is that if you get cyclists that are avid about cyclists, and we have just the best venues.
Right.
We're car hungry, miles and miles and miles without an intersection, and wide roads. Some of them are recently repaved and beautiful.
One of the things that to me is really special about Kingdom Games is how kids get involved at all levels, and I know that you're contacting the schools and trying to get them to get more kids, but when I look at the kids who are involved and see what it does for them and the strength that they get from it, 2 junior swimmers that you have who swim the lake.
Just about to come up to them.
Cool.
Yeah,
Carry
so
on.
if we can return back, this is the prize at the Moose, and Lori really kicked butt on that one. We also had a team challenge at the Moose, and this is the Upper Valley team that came in, but we had Upper Valley, we had the locals, we had Kingdom Velo Group and others. Kingdom Swim is the biggest, the most robust. It's been the leader for our other swims as well, and we'll have people from 36 different states that will come in.
And different countries.
And different countries. We've had Ireland, Scotland, London, India, Australia represented, and it's a great party and a celebration. We used to have a parade down Main Street, which was talked about around the world about, you know, there aren't many parades for open water swimmers. They're used to swimming across the English Channel, and they hit a pile of rocks in France, and that's it. You know, congratulations, take a few pictures, send them back to your friends. But we're now doing a promenade to the gazebo here, and that kind of does it. And we have this wonderful dinner. On the right night, it's just magical. Newport Natural does a lasagna dinner for us, and it's a pet swimmer, well, it's a swimmers and yackers dinner, and they all get together, and it starts us out. And the enthusiasm on the beach is unbelievable. People go crazy. That was a picture by Chris Rickman in the olden days. This is one of the early starts at Kingdom Swim. It's a galloping start for some, and we tell the others, if you don't like swimming as a contact sport, stroll in. This is a group of 10-milers heading out with Newport in the background. And one of the things that I love about Kingdom Swim is it showcases our city as a vibrant place. Yes. And most years there'll be some kind of a chowder festival or aquafest on the boardwalk. And so they're looking out and seeing our lake well used, and our swimmers are looking out and seeing a party going on.
And the families of the swimmers, because who wants to just sit and gaze at the water while somebody's out there for many hours? They go into Newport and they spend money. Yeah. Well, and the lake is pretty magical. It changes. The weather changes probably 2 or 3 times sometimes with any given. Minute by minute.
Yeah, and this is one of those beautiful moments where the fog just dropped down and people were going through it. looking at kayakers galore. This is one of my favorite kayaker pictures. This was heading out at Border Buster, and this year we had a 12-year-old swim Border Busters, which is a 16-mile swim around Province Island. With recent changes, well, look at that.
Imagine that.
So this is the, Dan is the oldest, most mature Border Buster, and with our most mature kayaker. And it's quite a team, and next year you guys are signed up for Swim the Length of the Lake.
That's right.
And if he's successful, he would be.
If?
I never assume anything.
We have plans.
And but if he's successful, at 70, he would be the oldest to swim the length of the lake. And the two of you would have a combined age of what, 139?
139, right? Yeah. Not horrifying.
Pretty cool. And we do some individual swims, and this is one of Smuggler's Cave on Skinner Island. And I know one of the people who is part of a family that owns that island, and it's a great story. But we started these individually escorted swims, and they're pretty popular. This is, I will get to the kids soon, but this is a freedom run that we do. These are the Mosiers. It's a family thing. You're talking about families running, and
on the bike path.
They do it every year, and this is one of the first years we did it, and they're wearing their T-shirts proudly. And then probably my favorite time is our swim week. We started it in 2010 on a cold January day, 30 degrees below zero, wind of 20, 30 miles. It was too cold to even go out and get the wood. And I emailed out, I got an email from somebody who said they'd like to swim Willoughby, would I support them? And I wrote back and said, yes, would you like some company? So I sent out an email to the first 100 that had signed up the year before in 2009. And by the end of the day, I had 34 people come back and say they would like to swim Willoughby. So we started with Willoughby, and then we moved on to Caspian, and then we started this whole week. And this is Crystal. I mean, this is one of my favorite lakes, and it's beautiful. It's the best beach. Our numbers have grown from 4 or 5 the first year to this year we had 15 to 20 signed up. And we have local boat support, which is critical to making these happen. These swims could not happen without local residents of the lake coming out with their boats. Swimming to the cliffs in the morning is just wonderful. And then we get to Moose Rock and people start jumping. And so this is a swimmer. He did all 8 lakes this year, and his wife is kayaking for him. She said, I'm jumping. So there you can see her bib flying up into her face as she jumps off the rocks. And this is Vera's mom kayaking, and Anita Gariapi, she's one of our steadfast kayakers. And then we go to Island Pond. We started with 4 at Island Pond. This year we had 20. We swim around the island and over to Brighton Beach and then back to the docks.
Your events are truly inclusive of the whole of the Northeast Kingdom. It's not just Newport, which is the good thing.
Yes, and one of the things we do, because the local boat support is so critical to these swims, is that if you live in the Northeast Kingdom, you can do these swims for half price. So that's Essex, St. Johnsbury, and up to Newport. And so we actually had, I don't have a picture of him, Scott Machinist came out and he swam in Island Pond, and he's been waiting to do that for years.
Now, if only we had a year-round pool here as well.
Don't get me going.
Or me.
One of the things I love is that I've made friendships with people across the border, and who value the whole idea of crossing the border. And so one of them is the mayor of Ayerscliffe, Alec Van Zuyden, and he's set us up with the swim on Lake Massawippi.
That is one of my favorite lakes.
It's a 9-mile swim. The mayor comes out, the city council come out, the police come out. They all support us. There's Blueberry Point. and there's Charlotte Bryn did a double crossing this year, and there's her
tracker.
Yeah, and then this is the group, and in the middle are the two girls, Vera and Margaret. Margaret became last year Vera was the youngest to swim Lake Massawippi. This year Margaret, at age 10, was the youngest to swim the 9 miles, and Vera came in first. And Charlotte, who's not in this picture, double crossed it. So that was a making of some history. There's Alec Van Zuyden in the pink shirt. Peter and Genevieve Channel, who are rocks of the games, and Peter's got some swimming lifeguard experience, and he's our timer. And then Francois from the college, Cervite, was there to help. And so I'm hoping that that one is going to grow.
You pull all this off with a minuscule crew, which is really impressive.
Yeah, some events, you know, we need a lot of volunteers, but we've learned, like for example with the Freedom Run, we can do that with 3 or 4 or 5 people.
Right.
So here we go. This is coming into North Hatley. There's Vera and her mom. This year Vera is signed up to swim the full length of the lake with, it's a different time, it's in July than you and Dan, but it's very exciting to think of a 13-year-old swimming 25 miles the length of the lake. And she just started, I think 3-4 years ago, swimming her first mile. So she's really come a long way.
She and her sister are little fish. They're amazing.
There's Peter McHarg of the City Council at Ayers Cliff.
Yeah.
There's Peter timing them in. I don't know how we're doing for time.
We have about another 3 minutes. So
3 minutes. So I'm just going to go
what
through.
You can do in that.
I'm going to go through. This is the fun we have swimming Seymour. There's my little boat. There's our little folk concert. Echo is a wonderful lake. We use Northwood Stewardship. I'm just going to move on through. Swimming around Province Island now we can do without reporting in, which is terrific.
Even better.
Our volunteers out on the water. Lake Willoughby, of course, is iconic and beautiful. And let me see if I can.
We are so lucky with what we have up here.
Yeah, and there's Margaret swimming Lake Willoughby. Her sister double-crossed it. Hawaii represented. Charlotte and Vera swimming into the beach. Charlotte has been a real inspiration. Caspian is always fun. It's the little lake that roars, and
it does roar.
It's
always
high up.
Wild.
It's high up, and this guy was a kayaker who decided to go swimming, so I gave him the dolphin, and they're the Vera and Margaret, and then In Search of Memphrey is just become an iconic swim in and of itself. This is Sarah Thomas, who did 50 miles. Set her up for a couple of years later, swimming 82, and then last year swimming 104 miles on Champlain. This is Captain Chris Steele and his wife Gail, my neighbors who have supported these games. Police have accompanied us into Magog to avoid boat traffic. There's a guy who butterflied the whole way.
Which is truly insane.
Brilliant,
but truly insane.
But it's a wonderful swim and beautiful at times. Yes. There's Paula Yankauskas. She right now is the oldest person to have completed at 60. Then very quickly we move into Fly to Pi, a dirt road marathon with 13-mile and 17-mile options ending at Parker Pi. There are timers. Celebrating with the first marathon of that woman. There's a local Barton family participating in our family challenge. Newton Baker, who's age 74. He's run all 4 years of the marathon, even the year he ran across the country. And then we have our pond hockey. This was Poulos Insurance. This year we're going to do a women's pond hockey. And there's the
that is
ice skating.
Such a stunning photograph.
I love it, and I love that event.
That's one of your photos.
It is one of my photos, and we're not doing the skating festival this year.
I know.
Because we came into conflict with Portland, but whoops.
And with really crummy ice the last couple of years.
Well, last year, yeah. And then here's our winter swim festival, and we have a hat competition. This year we're full to capacity, probably over full, with 67 people signed up to swim, but we have already 20 people signed up to volunteer. Some of them traveling from all over the place to volunteer, and we're encouraging spectators to come down and enjoy it. And this is one of those things. It started with the rec department and their winter saw, and I said a bad joke takes a wrong turn and leads to an adventure. And swimmers started saying, we want to help and we want to do this. And there's Charlotte advertising. They're the boys of winter, Mike Booth, Josh McCoy, and Mac McKinney. They now cut that pool every year. This is a New Yorker swimming with that first year with the blocks of ice behind him. There's a 74-year-old butterflyer from New York. There's another one. There's our hat competition, which is hysterical and a lot of fun and a great way to start it off.
There's nothing like flamingos swimming in ice.
Or Memphremagog with their pyrotechnics.
Yeah. We are just about out of time, so as the last pictures roll by, I'm going to thank you for coming and really hope that the long-term success of Kingdom Games is they keep going forever.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here. I hope they go forever too.
Probably will, in one form or another.
Well, thanks an awful lot for having me.